we've already talked a little bit about freedom being responsibility for and towards rather than responsibility from. And Dreher argues that too often the secular liberal ideal of freedom in the West is about freedom from things as opposed to bringing with it a responsibility for and towards those to whom you are bonded with and tied to and indebted to and responsible for. And again, from Father Kolakovic, whose name I am probably still mispronouncing, he has sort of a three-part instruction: see, judge, act. See, which means be awake to the realities around you. Judge, soberly discern what those realities mean in light of what you know. And he would have it, especially in light of Christian teachings. And act, to resist evil. And that's not to say that sometimes passive disobedience or quiet disagreement isn't the best move. We are not instructed by this book or by honorable dissident Christians in general that you must always take a stand and put your life on the line every time you see one of these things happening. But this man who said, see, judge, act, oh my God, the cat just did something very bad. See, judge, act. He succeeded almost instantly as he was moving, as he had escaped the Gestapo. He'd been on the run as an anti-fascist, and he created this community of trust and mutual friendship from a diverse group of people because you can, right? Because it is actually possible that when you engage with people as individuals, regardless of their background, regardless of what they describe to you as their capabilities or their beliefs, and almost everyone can be reached. And we saw this in our careers as professors, in the classroom, in the field, in labs, that almost every human being is simply looking for connection, is looking for someone to see them and to look at them and say, I know something real about you. Show a little bit of respect and learn their names first, but then also know something real about them that isn't somewhat arbitrary, and make a connection. And gosh, that's almost all it takes. And so much of that is missing from the modern ideology. This modern ideology is based primarily on hate. It's about what you're resisting only as opposed to what you're for. So we'll come back to that, but let's spend just a little bit of time talking about family, talking about privacy, and a little bit more on community. So family. Václav Benda, who was a primary leader of the resistance to communism in the Czech half of Czechoslovakia, believed that the family is the bedrock of civilization and must be nurtured and protected at all costs. And he saw communism in his country directly threaten the family. He wrote an essay in 1988 called The Family and the Totalitarian State, which defends, yes, the Christian idea of family on three bases: the fellowship of love, the gift of freedom, but again, freedom which involves responsibility rather than freedom from responsibility, and the dignity of the individual within family fellowship. Quote, in practically all other social roles, we are replaceable and can be relieved of them, whether rightly or wrongly. Hold on, I want to read the rest of this quote here. Benda writes in this 1988 essay, in practically all other social roles, we are replaceable and can be relieved of them, whether rightly or wrongly. However, such a cold calculation of justice does not reign between husband and wife, between children and parents, but rather the law of love. Even where love fails completely, and with all that accompanies that failure, the appeal of shared responsibility for mutual salvation remains, preventing us from giving up on unworthy sons, cheating wives, and doddering fathers. This is what is meant by responsibility for. Freedom involves responsibility, involves obligation. A completely, frankly, anarchist liberation from all that has come before, including all relationships that have come before, is a descent very quickly into a horror that no one wants to live with.
So I want to try to, I hope I don't regret attempting this, but
Okay.
there's something about, if you step into our evolutionary lens for a second here, step behind the evolutionary lens. You've got lineage being the point of evolution's point, which is neither good nor bad, but nonetheless, it is the organizing principle, we would argue, for what it is we are to do. Family is the limits of lineage that you actually have contact with. That can be extended family, and in some cultures it can be very extended. It can then be, modernity can wreck extended family, and it can reduce family to the nuclear version.
Yeah.
The family in question is, in some sense, the Christian version, because the Old Testament is not a monogamous document. The New Testament is. And so in some sense, we have been handed a version of family that has been altered by modernity, altered by somewhat ancient belief structures, but is stable for evolutionary reasons. What stabilizes it? Metaphorical beliefs about a higher ultimate purpose, when you can't state the actual purpose, which is the longevity of lineage.
Well, but the other thing that stabilizes it is exactly what I was just reading, that within family, the social roles aren't replaceable.
Right.
We can't just be relieved of them.
This is exactly what I'm saying,
Yeah.
is that to behave as if those are permanent connections is a literal understanding of something beneath them that until very recently we couldn't say anything about, right? Which is your genetic lineage. And so in any case, the point is, when somebody sits down with pen and paper and says, I have a better way, we'll dissolve that stuff, we'll collectivize everything, we'll distribute it beautifully, right? What they are in effect doing is arguing an evolutionarily unstable strategy. How will they seek to stabilize it? With violence, even if they don't know that that's what they're advocating. At the point they decide this is the way forward, they are guaranteeing that they will have to avail themselves of violence and totalitarianism in order to stabilize it.
Because it is inherently an evolutionarily unstable strategy and has no way of maintaining itself absent force and violence.
Exactly. So for those few of you who are tracking the fact that David Sloan Wilson and I are on a collision course about group selection versus what I call lineage selection, this is the point. Yeah. Group selection is unstable and therefore requires some sort of force to make it work. Lineage selection is the thing that flows under all of these systems that have worked and lasted. And so the ultimate metaphorical truths that stabilize the underlying lineage phenomenon that we can't exactly describe is the key thing that is being challenged. And in any case, we have to figure out how to repel that challenge without, I think, resorting to a primitive mindset about the supernatural.